Hello, this is Jackie B. Peterson, author of Better, Smarter, Richer, 7 Business Principles for Solo and Creative Entrepreneurs. Welcome to Solo Pro Radio today. It's my mission as the author of Better, Smarter, Richer to help solos, those of you in one-person businesses, understand and apply the 7 solo business principles to your enterprises so that you can find more financial success. I hope that you will visit my website, www.bettersmarterricher.com, and there you can download the free ebook outlining the 7 principles, sign up for the free newsletter, and join the conversation on the blog. Also, the book is available for sale on the website, and we've got some things going on that I'd like to remind you about and tell you about. You can track them also on the website. So tonight, September 18th, we are offering a free symposium around the Better, Smarter, Richer principles. It will be at the Portland Community College Climb Center on the corner of Southeast Water and Southeast Clay, 6 to 9 p.m. We're also starting 2 Better, Smarter, Richer study groups. Great way to work the work in the Better, Smarter, Richer book. As you know, it's a fill-in-the-blanks workbook. So we're starting a study group out at our Willow Creek campus in Hillsborough on Tuesday, September 24th, 1 to 3 o'clock p.m. for the next 4 weeks, and one on Thursday morning, September 26th, 9 to 11 a.m. at the Climb Center. Also, if you haven't signed up for it, we've got a conference coming up in town on September 28th. I'm going to be one of the speakers at the Inspired Entrepreneurs Conference at the Hilton Hotel. Check that out. Anyway, hope you tune in to Better, Smarter, Richer. My guest today is Emily Running. Emily is a dancer, teacher, artist, model, writer, and the creator of multiple businesses. I mean, she's got multiple activities. I think that's great. In order to try to categorize her multiple endeavors, Emily created the business and website Movement Inspired. She came to Portland and began performing with an aerial dance company and piloted an education and community outreach program for the area dance community, AWOL Dance Collective, based in Portland. This is a group in which she also performs. I'm going to learn a lot about aerial dance today. Recently, she completed a memoir entitled Anatomy Riot, in which she talks about how she navigated the mental and emotional journey of losing her job, her identity, and health all at once. Emily says she's a great believer in the quote, leap and the net will appear. Emily, I couldn't agree with you more. So hello, Emily. I'm glad you're joining us today.
Hi, Jackie. Thank you so much for having me on the program.
This sounds like it's going to be interesting to talk about. You've been on quite a journey.
And yes, you're right. Your listeners may learn a few new things about aerial dance that they didn't know before.
Yes. Several people commented because we send out a mailer to people to notifying them of who's going to be on the show, and they said, "Oh, the lady who's upside down."
Right, exactly.
So, Emily, I visited your website and read about your journey. Can you tell our listeners your story? Like where you grew up and went to school, what you studied, and how you've just moved through all these multiple careers. We're eager to hear.
Yeah. So I grew up in Missoula, Montana, actually, back in the Northwest, and my father is a scientist and my mother is an artist, so I got a little bit of both in me, growing up, a little inspiration from both the right brain and the left brain side. Mm-hmm. And I went to school. I studied a little bit in Arizona and then a little bit at the University of Montana and graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Choreography and Performance and Dance. So from there, I moved to Los Angeles and started performing and really started going about developing my independent career right after school. And that's when things started to get a little bit crazy, I felt, because I was dancing and I got a Pilates certification so that I could teach, and I was starting to work a little bit. Friends that I knew of needed a model for their photography class, and so I started adding various little bits and pieces of work to what I was doing, and being young and excited to start off with things, I took any opportunity that I was able to get my hands on, and that crossed from dance to fitness and teaching and more artistic endeavors and film, and there's so much going on in Los Angeles that it was just a plethora of opportunities. So that was kind of what started happening, and at a certain point I stopped being able to so what do you do?
Yeah.
And I said, I can't answer that. That's such a challenging question for me, and that's when I decided to take a reflective moment and figure it out for myself. What is it that I do, and how are these things related? So that's kind of where Movement Inspired came out of. Is my attempt at categorizing that very nebulous question of what do you do? And I thought, well, what does it all come down to? The path isn't linear. I'm not a Pilates instructor so that I can open my own studio one day. That's a very linear path. But instead, I was all sorts of things kind of all over the board. And so Movement Inspired was the way that I collected it for myself and said, okay, all of these things actually do add up to something that has a similar category and has maybe a similar mission. But it also opened me up to being able to just explore a little bit, and that was exciting.
Sounds like you've been quite an explorer, actually.
I think so. Yeah.
That's
the fun part.
It is the fun part. I can just see you, as a talented artist, being in LA, and all of these people having great ideas about how they can use your skills because they're saying, oh my gosh, there's this talent. We can use her for this, we can use her for this, we can use her for this. And, of course, you're in that thing we all call finding ourselves, and you're checking all kinds of things out to see what works. It's like the old throw the spaghetti at the wall, and see what sticks. So,
exactly.
Right?
And one of my favorite stories that kind of is along with that is I had taken voice lessons when I moved to Los Angeles because I wanted to, they talk about being a triple threat, and you have to be a dancer, an actor, and a singer, and you have to have it all, and you have to be ready for anything that might happen in an audition. So I started taking voice lessons, but I was always too scared to take acting classes. And about 3 years after I stopped taking these voice lessons, my voice coach called me and said, I work at a place called Theater of Arts in Hollywood, and we need a movement for actors teacher, and I think that you would be perfect for the job. I said, okay, sounds good. Tell me a little bit more about this. So the director of the school called me and brought me in for an interview, and I remember within the course of my interview, this is for an acting school. It's a post-secondary school, actually, where a lot of foreign students have the opportunity to come see what it's like to be in LA. Mm-hmm. So I came in for this interview, and I very distinctly remember during the interview saying, oh, I'm terrified of acting. They said, what is your acting experience? I said, oh, I'm terrified of acting. And whatever else I said, I came in with a syllabus, and I came in with some ideas, and I came in with some inspiration. And at the end of the interview, he hired me on the spot, and he said, there's many more qualified people than you applying for this job, and yet I just think that you have the energy and the enthusiasm to make this class successful. And he offered me the job, so I took it.
Oh, wow.
How did that even happen? That came so out of the blue. So, again, I think that you have to be open to, I have no idea why this is happening, but maybe this is something that I need to give a try.
Yeah. It's kind of like being at a smorgasbord and tasting everything on the table,
Right. And exactly. Same with the noodle on the wall. I was there for a couple of semesters and did various things, and then my career had progressed to a point where I wasn't available to teach anymore, and that wasn't the thing that stuck, but it was a very valuable part of my own development and experience.
And it just gives you a richness to everything that you do when you have multiple experiences like that. You know, there's this texture to what you do. Yeah, because you know.
As well as some confidence of going in and saying, I'm terrified of acting while you're applying for a job at an acting school, and seeing that there's often a lot more to an interview or the success of something than just your flat-out textbook qualifications or resume. So that was such it really was kind of a powerful moment in my development, is just being able to see that and thinking, okay, that was great. I could maybe do this again.
Yeah.
Now I know next time I interview, I'm going to keep that in mind and, show them that I have something to offer, even if it's not the direct match that was on the job description.
Well, one of the things, of course, I talk about in Better, Smarter, Richer, is how critical it is to choose one thing and focus on it and develop your expertise. But you are almost like a textbook case of someone who's multi-talented, multifaceted, so you try it all. And then what happens is that, there's one thing that rises out of all of this, so it's kind of like a developmental stage. You move through trying it all, and then you say, I'm really drawn to this part, and this is where now I'm going to focus. But what I've got in my background is a taste of all these other things. I've got a taste of acting and a taste of modeling and a taste of performing and a taste of this kind of dance and, all those things. And, it brings real richness to what you do.
Absolutely. So. And I think that the next portion of my story is when I up and moved to Paris.
Great. Let's talk about that.
To figure out. So I was fairly happy doing what I was doing in Los Angeles, but decided that I needed a little bit of a change, and I needed to gain a comfort level with calling myself an artist, because it tends to be a fairly tough word to use, and feel really confident, because the follow-up question is always like, well, how do you make money? And that, it isn't always exactly how you make money, but it is, something that you can identify with. It's part of your identity. So I moved to Paris to explore that, and I have always had dance be that one primary focus. So all of these other things that I was doing was just kind of creating a well-rounded experience, unique experience, or expanding my inspiration or whatever it was to come back to dancing. And when I moved to Paris, I actually did a lot more other things. Again, the modeling, a little bit of writing, a little bit of painting, a little bit of photographing myself, taking pictures myself and looking at the composition of what, there's a scene and what do I want to capture from this, and various things. And what I discovered is that the tools that I had used, the tools that I had developed in college and learned about, and of how to create a composition or elements of interest or various things that we kind of talk about as artists, it really transferred from painting to writing to dancing to any of those endeavors that we.
What a wonderful aha!
And it was like,
learning.
I can, it helped me to realize, okay, well, while primarily I'm a dancer because that's what my body I feel inspired by, I certainly can't. I wouldn't be showing off my paintings to anybody, but they were fun. I'm not a watercolor master, but they were fun. But, it did help me to realize, okay, looking at something in a different way and realizing that the tool set that you have as a creative, it does transfer to a variety of other kind of genres of art, and that was a pretty empowering thing to realize.
That's big learning. That's big learning. A lot of times people have a very hard time. They get kind of stuck, and they think when they start or if they are moving from art to dance, that they have to start all over. And, of course, in some ways that they do, but there are many general principles that are carried over, and you got that.
Absolutely.
That's a big deal.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And all of the things, building my own website, I researched, okay, what are the design components that I need to make a good-looking website? And there, it all just facilitates your progression. Every time you accept a challenge like that, or go on a different route, or try something new, it reminds you of kind of the skills and abilities that you have, and then teaches you a lot of new things that you didn't know.
That's true. We carry that knowledge. So we skipped over talking about Movement Inspired. That was your first business. So what was that all about, and are you still operating that?
Yeah, that's pretty much, that is synonymous with Emily Running. I think.
Okay, well, that's a big deal.
And it is, to me, I created it in order to create an identity for myself, and in a lot of ways it was about me creating this category that I fit into. So I wasn't entirely a dancer, or entirely a teacher, or entirely any of the various professions that I held. I was this greater entity of Movement Inspired, and I was able to do all of those things. So
I see.
I created the website Movement Inspired so that when I was talking to somebody, I could say, oh, go to my website. Maybe you'll need me to work on your film, or maybe you'll want me to work on your photo shoot, or maybe you'll want, and so it was a way for me to consolidate all of the various things that I was doing.
So it's your brand.
And then advertise them as well. So it's a brand, and it's me as a brand.
Emily as a brand. Oh, that's kind of cool.
Emily as a brand.
Yeah. And, of course, it would be Movement Inspired, because you just said to us that dance has always been the primary focus. And all these other were pieces you were adding.
And the movement, I think that there's a lot of, I also took it, definitely the literal sense of movement, but as well, that forward motion, the always, always exploring, always being curious, always saying yes to a new project. That type of movement is also another way that you could read that, Movement Inspired.
I like always saying yes to a different kind of project. I'm still guilty of that.
Right, exactly.
I mean, how are you going to learn stuff if you don't say yes to opportunities that come along?
Exactly.
Although at the same time, I have to tell you that one of the things that Better, Smarter, Richer tells people is when to say no. Because you reach a point where, you've got your focus and your identity and your brand pulled together around one thing that you are. And if you want to be financially successful, I tell people there's a lot of times you can say yes if you want to have an interesting life. But if you want to be financially successful, you've got to really be focused in one thing. And instead of spreading yourself laterally like you've been doing, into modeling, photography, blah, 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 then you have to say, I'm going to choose one area. My area of focus is dance. And now you begin focusing vertically on it. You dig deeper and deeper and deeper into the, into the nuances of that one thing, rather than, all of the arts. You choose an art, and you really get to know and develop your expertise in one area. And once you've done that, as you begin to move towards that financial success goal, then you have to start saying no to things that are going to pull you off track, because it costs you what I'm going to call opportunity costs. You find yourself having a great time exploring something that isn't going to take you where you want to go in your career, and then when the opportunity comes up that's going to take you somewhere on your career, you don't have time for it. So, you're probably at that point or a little past that point now in Emily Running career where you have to start saying no to some things. Are you there?
And it's actually been it has been a tricky balance over the years of what to prioritize. And I think that that monetary factor, that how do you make money, I've actually used it a little bit in the reverse of what you're saying, and that I've known that dancing, that is where what I want to be doing. So that's the thing that I've prioritized. But sometimes you dance for a company and you don't get paid for your rehearsal time. It's what I want to do, but it's not the time that I'm getting paid for. And then a photo shoot comes up and they say, well, we'll pay you X amount of dollars, and and for a day photo shoot, and you say, perfect, I can do that, and then now I'm sustained for a month of dancing, without having to stress about, piling too much on, and definitely I am at a point. Go ahead.
Well, as a business coach, my hope for you will be that you develop your name, brand, your skill set, and your reputation in your area such that you are so well known that nobody would think of asking you to do a day of rehearsal without paying you.
Right, exactly. That's what we all hope for.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the goal that you're really after, that you become so well known and so good and so respected in, the slice of the pie that you choose to focus on, that they just wouldn't even think of asking you to give it away because you're tied to that, And that takes a lot of work too, that takes a lot of thinking about it and prep and planning and eventually saying no to the wrong things and demanding that the right things show up, which they do, by the way. The right things do show up.
Exactly, and just keeping that ultimate goal in mind is always helpful with that, because it's a lot easier to prioritize when you reevaluate and you say, this is what I'm working towards. This is what I'm working towards, and this is how my life balance. This is what I want from my life balance. Is I want this amount of time focused on this particular activity, and then here's where the other things fit in. They can fit in the cracks here and there, but definitely finding.
I like to tell people, Emily, that when an opportunity comes up or when a thought comes up, what you have to do is think about, where will this lead? Will this lead me closer to my, my ultimate goal and my, my development of my expertise, my unique value, or not? Because it isn't just this opportunity, it's the next opportunity that comes from that. So you kind of have to be saying, where might this take me? And if it will take me towards where I want to go, then I can do it, even though it might not seem to be, in alignment with how people see me. But if it isn't going to take me there, that's not a good idea. Although eating is always a good idea.
Eating is always good, right? Paying the rent is always preferable to not.
So talk to us about aerial dance. What exactly is that?
So the most commonly known aerial is Cirque du Soleil.
Okay.
So pretty much aerial dance could be considered anything in the air, except from, I do get asked if I jump out of planes on vacation. And that's not the kind of aerial dance I'm talking about. In fact, I think that's just skydiving. But so aerial dance is anything in the air, and the company, AWOL Dance Collective, that I work with currently and that I worked on the education and community outreach program with, is we're kind of a unique company in that we all come from a dance background. A lot of aerial comes from a circus background, and we all come from a dance background. So our performances are a little bit different than you might see elsewhere, in that we really focus on the choreography. We even invent new apparatus. So your traditional apparatus will be the silks or a trapeze or the hoop, which is also called a lyra. So those are kind of some standard aerial apparatus. Mm-hmm. But we like to do things a little bit differently for our own creative souls and just for the excitement of the audience as well, being able to see something new. So we have invented, for example, asymmetrical flying chairs.
Woo!
That we do some work with, or just a whole variety of different things. We have a professional welder that works with us to kind of bring our wildest dreams to reality.
Isn't that neat? Did you ever think as a professional dancer you'd need to, hook up with a welder?
Exactly. I know. Again, that's kind of the collaboration, the collaborative effort, which is always great fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you learn to do this?
Well, when I moved to Portland, I was looking for professional dance companies to work with, and I visited a number of companies and took some classes and went to rehearsals and spoke with people. And when I met the AWOL company, there was something that clicked with it. There was something that just felt right about it. And while I had never done aerial dance before, I said, well, why don't I give this a try? And that was at age 26. I started my new professional dance career in aerial. And, all of the dance that I had done in the past, it was mostly contemporary, but it was very physical. Lots of going upside down already and handstands and, inversions and various things. And so it wasn't totally foreign to me. Even in Los Angeles, I worked with a company where we worked with these enormous set pieces. So you were hanging from things and swinging from things and partnering, and, it wasn't entirely foreign to me.
I think you're very
do all
brave.
Of those things. So aerial wasn't actually too big of a leap for me. Coming from that background in dance, and I started, and I love the company that I work with, and I love the work, and I think that it just kind of went well.
Wow. So AWOL is a Portland-based dance company then?
Correct. Yes.
And do you perform
10th
in
season.
Portland or all over, or?
Mostly we perform in Portland, although more and more we've been recognized we're developing, and we've done some gigs in Los Angeles and Las Vegas and Sun Valley, and kind of starting to go a little bit further out. So, but mostly we're Portland-based.
Oh, that's
right
fantastic.
Now. Yeah.
That's fantastic. What a wonderful thing. How many people are in the company?
There's about 12 company members, and then we have a training program. So it's an adult training program, but for people who have interest in learning at kind of a greater depth, but are not at a professional level yet. So working towards that. And then we have, again, the whole education program.
Okay. And what's the education program?
So the education program is pretty much open to the public. So we offer classes just like any other dance studio. We offer classes from ages 4 to 70. I think we've had a 70-year-old come in.
Cool.
So ages 4 to 70, and we offer classes in a variety of styles, whether it be purely fitness, just more fun work on the trapeze that doesn't take a lot of skill or technique, but is just more for the public, to aerial yoga, to actual skills and technique of aerial dance.
Wow.
So kind of
fun.
The board. Yeah.
I think that's just fantastic. How fun. So is now that, would you say, of all the types of dances that you've done, that aerial dance is the one that you most identify with? Is that kind of where you've settled in?
No, I actually wouldn't say that still. I think that it's interesting. It's interesting. I think that we all go through phases as artists of you learn a new style and you work with it for a while, and then you maybe learn a little bit something different or expand that in some way. And I absolutely love aerial. I do know that aerial dance will probably have a shorter shorter lifespan, then I can keep dancing for as long as I live. But aerial, while you can do it later and later, I think it's a little bit more intense physically.
Yeah.
And so
I can
that's
understand
something that, eventually there will be a balance again where we as a company, AWOL again is composed of dancers versus just composed of maybe gymnasts or circus trained people and whatnot. And so we do some floor work and we do try to keep up our dance skill as well. So it's a little bit half and half right now.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, Emily, you've written a memoir called Anatomy Riot about your hip surgery. So talk about the situation and then how it was to write about it.
Absolutely. So about 2 years ago, coming up on 2 years ago, I was having pretty extraordinary hip pain, and it slowly developed over time. So I remember back in college having a little bit of pain, but you're dancing all day, every day. It doesn't seem unreasonable to be having pain, right? Mm-hmm. And it slowly developed, and I tried to work with it, and I tried to work with chiropractors or acupuncturists, or I went to a variety of different, I had Rolfing done, a variety of different physical methods just to see if I could work on this, but nobody was able to identify exactly what was going on with my body. And it wasn't until, again, the pain really gradually increased to a point that I said, I can't continue with my profession without figuring out what's going on. And so that was the point where I had to bite the bullet and get an MRI and get some X-rays and see what was going on inside more than just what you could work with from the outside. And what we discovered is that I had hip dysplasia, which is a structural imbalance that you have from birth.
Oh, wow.
And
you've done all of this with hip dysplasia.
Everything exactly with hip
goodness.
dysplasia. And luckily my case was mild enough that it wasn't highly intense, and that's probably why I was able to continue doing what I was doing. But it did get to a point where my joint wasn't structured correctly, and so the bones were rubbing together, and again, things weren't looking so good. So it required a major surgery to fix, and that was a big decision for me, going from at least 75% of my income was coming from physical activity, whether it be dancing or teaching or anything, and that was something that I really had to talk through with the surgeons and say, do you understand what I do and what ramifications this may have? Yes. And I need to be reassured that on the other side of this surgery that I will be able to perform at a high level again.
Right.
And of course there's no guarantee for that, absolutely.
Yeah,
Whether, they said in theory this is a textbook surgery, you're healthy, you're young, you're active, all of the signs point to you should be able to come back. And what we're going to do, and close your ears if anything graphic is not your thing, but they essentially had to cut my pelvis, cut the bones, and rearrange them and screw them back together in a new positioning that was better for the joint.
Wow. Holy moly.
So that's what I was facing, and it was no
serious
small
stuff.
Yeah, it was no small thing. But what the doctors did, what I realized after extensive research and looking into it and multiple appointments talking to the surgeon, is that this was my best possible option, that what they were looking at doing was preserving the joint. So no replacement, no artificial parts, nothing that would need to be replaced again or that would create restrictions for me. they were preserving the integrity of the joint. And once the bone healed, I would really be, in a much better place.
Wow,
and
that's a big thing.
So it was a big thing, and it took months for me to come to terms with actually saying, yes, I'm going to go ahead and go through with this. And the pain was kind of fluctuating in and out, and my mental state was kind of trying to make sense of it all and try to figure out what this meant for my future and my profession. And finally, I was able to go through with it. And, there's, as with any story, there was a lot of bumps along the way and a lot of postponed original surgery date, and then more happening later, and then, and insurance complications and all of the things that kind of come with that. And it was really an all-consuming experience. I felt like, unfortunately, I had to detach from my life a little bit in order to be able to handle all of the things that I needed to do in order to prepare and go through with this.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
On the other side of that, I realized that I was in a little bit of a stuck place in terms of, again, that forward motion, in terms of knowing what to do with myself. And that's where it was suggested of me. It was actually one of my yoga students. I taught yoga and Pilates at the Adidas North American headquarters, and one of my students, I was back teaching after surgery, about 2 or 3 months after surgery, and she just said, my class saw me go through this decision-making process, and, would check in and kind of knew a little bit more. And this one student said, there's so much more than just the physical process of this, and, you've come out of this, and you've healed, and you're still working and struggling with some of the physical components of it, but there's so much more to that, and the mental and emotional. And she was a triathlete, and so she really understood and identified with that kind of mental and emotional struggle with injury or needing to push yourself or being an athlete. And she said, I think that you should write a book. You are a mover and a dancer and a teacher, and you have the ability to describe the kind of functioning of the body and the mental process and everything with so much detail, that she said, I just think that you should write about it. I think it's a really important topic. And it's no small task to write a book.
No, it is no small task to write a book. I'll tell you, I can certainly agree with you there. I felt like I had somebody that was scrubbing my brain. I had a wonderful developmental editor, and she was scrubbing my brain.
Yeah. So I scoffed at it at first, saying that's really kind of you. I really appreciate that, but that's crazy. That's crazy. I can't write a book. And after, again, sitting on it for a little bit, I realized that maybe writing is going to be what allows me to move past this.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to sit down and start writing and just see what happens. Like, no expectation, nothing.
Kind of like journaling,
Yeah. And once I did, it just kind of started pouring out, and I realized that getting it on paper meant that I didn't have to remember, because I didn't want to forget all of the details of all, not even the details, but I didn't want to forget what it felt like to go through that, because it was such an intense and powerful, life-changing thing at age 30, kind of right at a turning point in your life anyways. And so I just, I realized that, okay, this is the thing that's going to help me move past it. So I continued, and I finished the book.
Good for you. That's so big. That's just so big.
Yeah, and it's, I published the ebook version, and I'm just moments away, really, from publishing the paperback version. And people started reading it and saying, I can identify with that, and I can identify with that. And even they weren't aerial dancers. They weren't dancers at all. They were people just in life saying, those are struggles that I've gone through, or, this is something that applies to me, or this is, it was interesting to read about your creative journey and how, or how your profession changed, or how you kind of worked with the adversity of it. So that's kind of, it's been very reassuring to have people read it and say that was really valuable to me, even though it was, it wasn't my, it doesn't relate directly to their personal experience. There's a lot that can be gained from just kind of seeing inside somebody else's mind while going through something like that.
That's really wonderful. I think that what I'm hearing from talking to you, Emily, is that you have the capability of processing your own experiences at a higher level, not just the details of what you did and what you went through, but what was the meaning of it, Yep. What did you get out of it? What was it about? How did it connect to your life story? I think you have that kind of ability to do that all the time, and that's what people are relating to,
Yeah.
They're saying, oh, just like you were talking about the principles of any art. So this is kind of like the principles of anybody dealing with a major
grief.
change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, change, grief, any of those things. Exactly.
Wow.
And we all go through it. We all go through it, and
we all get a turn.
all at different points in our lives. And I think that's the point where when I was going through it, I wanted to hear somebody else's story. I wanted to see, I wanted to feel inspired by somebody else, just telling me what their experience was, and knowing that it wasn't, it wasn't wrong for me to experience emotion, or it wasn't,
oh gosh, no, never.
Just it's a unique place, and often you have to seek out someone in a similar mindset to help you work through that place. So sometimes a book maybe is the way that you work through it, versus even friends that aren't going through it have a hard time relating or knowing what to say, or very, kind of helping. And while I had immense support from my friends and family, it was something that I really sought out stories of people that maybe were dealing with something.
Yes.
Not necessarily similar, but just grief to that.
Yeah.
And
so how can people find your book? Where do they find your book if they want to buy it?
So my book is available on, again, the ebook version is what is out currently, and it's available pretty much on any, definitely on Amazon and Kindle, but it is also available through iBookstore or Barnes & Noble Nook, or pretty much any e-reader that you have. You can probably find the book. But and then you can also go to my website, movementinspired.com, to find a couple of excerpts from the book, as well as some reviews of it and various other things.
Cool. So then it seems, that you did one more level of growing with your surgery, and you founded DanceWire, right?
Exactly. So I guess I can't say final progression, but for now.
It is for now.
My most recent progression is coming out of surgery and saying, okay, I need to find a way to do what I want to do, but not have 75% of my income tied to my physicality.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And so that was my goal. That was my, how am I going to do this? And, applying for jobs and looking for work and trying to fit into a little bit of a world that I was unfamiliar with. And it didn't seem to be going well for a while there, and I was just thinking, why isn't this working, and why can't I get a job? And I know that I have skills, and I know that I have the ability to do a lot of different things, but what's the missing piece? And I ended up coming to the conclusion that I'm really good at starting inventing my own profession and next career progression. And so I found a little bit of inspiration from, there's something called the Dance Resource Center of Los Angeles that I was a part of when I was in LA. And it was essentially just exactly that, a resource center for the dance community of LA. And there's nothing like that in Portland. That is a truly comprehensive listing of classes, auditions, performance, what companies are in town, what studios are in town. And so that idea kind of came to me with, again, this inspiration of a company that I had been a member of and had highly valued. And so I said, you know what, I think I'm going to create it.
So is this like is it a membership? Is it a...
So it's membership, exactly.
Okay.
So it's membership-based, and I'm still in a little bit conceptual. I'm just moving past the conceptual stage of this business and working into actually making it, building out the website and getting it up and running. So at this point, I'm doing a little fundraising to get money to build the website and to move it along.
So are you doing crowdsourcing?
Not yet. So what I'm actually going to work on first is it will be a nonprofit. And while I want to be up and operating before I actually apply for 501c3, so at this point I'm looking at fiscal sponsorship with a national organization called Fractured Atlas.
Oh, I see.
And that'll be something that I am working on first, and then I'll start going from there.
This is, Emily, you're an amazing woman. You're an amazing woman. Just listening to you, that you are, you don't let adversity get you down. You find opportunities in it. You have gleaned the wisdom from all the things that have happened and all your experiences. I think this is just wonderful. I'm very impressed. What a resource you are. And here you are with this career-threatening, identity-threatening surgery that you had, and you said, all right, I'm going through this, but let me learn from it and figure out how I can take care of myself in the long run and not have 75% of my income coming from, my physicality, which clearly, I've pushed to the limits. And, and yet you're creating something as a huge resource for the dance community. Good for you. I mean, you really are an entrepreneur. I want you to know that.
Oh, good. I get the stamp of approval from Jackie.
Oh, yes.
I like it.
A lot of times people don't, you think of yourself as a dancer, not necessarily an entrepreneur, but what entrepreneurs do is they see a need and they go create it. And you've done that again and again and again.
I think it's I don't know, maybe it's genetic or something like that. I don't know. You're born with it, but I don't really know any other way. Like I said, I tried to go the traditional route. I tried to apply for jobs, and I've tried to do that. Do various things, and it's not the right thing. It's not the noodle that sticks to the wall. The noodle that sticks to the wall is when I get crazy ideas and try to make them work out. So,
well, I love your approach. I really love your approach. I don't know much about the dance world at all, and but I can hear, the entrepreneurial bent. That every time there's been a roadblock or a choice or adversity or a time to reflect, you've done that and you've said, okay, how can I find a solution and make it better? And not just for me, but for everybody who serves the way I do, who's also a performer, also a dancer, also, has some of these issues. And what a leader you are. Fantastic.
And I have to say that, during the whole surgery process, which I consider to be about a two-year process from diagnosis to going through with it to recovering to a place that I was performing again and teaching again and getting back on my feet. Through that place, during that time, I just I lost track of my ability to make choices, and I didn't know. I didn't feel like I was able to make choices. I often take a risk, but when you don't know if you're going to come out of this $100,000 in debt or not, you can't quite take the risk that you were able to take when that wasn't in front of you. And so it has been an ebb and flow. There has been some moments where I've said I lost it. I don't know what to do with myself anymore, and I don't know how to make choices and whatnot. And so again, that came back to the writing, and I was able to write and remind myself of where I've come from and what my process was and how it worked out, and learn from all of those things. So it isn't just quite a miraculous thing, but it's something that you just have to
work like that.
You have to kind of
you have to engage in the process.
You engage in the process, exactly.
Yeah, you have to engage in the process.
You engage in the process, and so I think that openness to engaging in the process is something that
you have.
That is one of the big lessons that I've learned is, okay, be open to change, be open to a different path, be open to that, and then move from what's in front of you, work with what's in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a very wonderful life lesson. So do you see the dance profession as growing? Is it more recognized and celebrated now than it's been in the past? Or are there more dance companies and more audiences and, people attending dance events?
Without specific statistics to give you or go from, I think that there's so many, even kind of in silly ways, like you think you can dance, so you think you can dance, and Dancing with the Stars and the various TV shows. I think that is it's making dance accessible to everyone. It's in their living room. They're starting to see a little bit more of it now. They maybe know the difference between tango and salsa, and they understand that there's nuance to it, and they see the excitement in it, and they see a little bit more. Just kind of have a better understanding of it, and I don't know. I hope so. That it's becoming more prominent and
and what I've noticed over the years is that the people who age the best are the dancers, and I think it's because they keep moving and they stay limber,
Exactly. We can't stop moving. Again, it's something that chooses us. We can't let it go from our lives, and that's one thing that I think it's not entirely unique to dance, but I know that most dancers, no matter what, even if they retire from their professional career, they find a way to keep it in their lives. It's just something that is, a big part of their identity and who they are, and so,
I've kind of watched that, and I've watched, because as we age, of course, all the health people are constantly talking to us about keep moving, keep exercising, do weights, keep walking, keep moving, and when you look at the dancers, who are also nicely aging, you can see the results that people who have
built in. Yeah, it's just built in. But I think that, again, even the rise of kind of a fitness-conscious society with more yoga and more Pilates and more mindful-based movement and, more activity, with the rise of all of that, I think that dance is feeling the benefit of that as well. Because a lot of people, again, with AWOL, a lot of people say, well, I want to work out, but I don't want to go on the treadmill. But I saw this trapeze class that was offered, and I think I'll try that. And then, and then they've found a fitness routine that actually works for them and keeps them excited and keeps them, gets them wanting to leave work and go get their sweat on. And so, I think that that's
wow,
great.
That's fun. So all of you listeners, stand up and get moving.
Right? And dance, because
Emily,
it's not about
wonderful.
It's not about how good you are. It's about how, how it makes you feel.
Shake your booty.
It's about expression. Yeah. Do it.
So, Emily, I've loved talking with you, but we're about out of time. This has been a great discussion. It's just been joyful. So if some of our listeners want to connect with you and perhaps buy a copy of your memoir or sign up for a program with AWOL or, see what you're up to with DanceWire, how can they get hold of you?
Absolutely. So the best one-stop shop is my website, movementinspired.com. And on there you will find my email address, which is erunning@mac.com. And from there you can contact me. I'd be happy to hear from listeners with comments or questions or anything that they have. That you will also be able to find a link to my book on my website, but also you could search Anatomy Riot on Amazon.
Wonderful. Emily, it's just been a joy talking with you.
Oh, thank you.
It's just been a joy. I've thoroughly enjoyed it today, and thank you so much. And listeners, remember, this is Jackie B. Peterson, author of Better, Smarter, Richer, 7 Business Principles for Solo and Creative Entrepreneurs. Emily and I have talked about a lot of those principles today. And I hope you'll go to the website, Better, Smarter, Richer, and take a look at the 7 principles that you need to be following for financial success in your solo venture. And also check out our calendar for activities going on. I have an online course that helps you, walks you through filling out the workbook. Better, Smarter, Richer, is a fill-in-the-blanks workbook. I have an online course. You can find it at www.opensesame.com and have me talking with you as you work through the chapters in the workbook. It's really kind of fun. And also, of course, stay tuned to this weekly radio show, which is posted weekly to www.soloproradio.com. I look forward to hearing with you next week. We'll have another great conversation. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday. Goodbye.